Backforty is back again.
Backforty back again.
Backforty back again. Man, that's now our catchphrase because we've said it so much. We have to stick to it.
I think so.
I don't know if it's a dumb one, but maybe that's, maybe that's part of it.
It works.
It works. That's exactly right. Yeah. So anyway,
it's simple and it's,
Yeah, it's a good little intro. Maybe it'll catch on. I just wanted to give you a heads up. I forgot to say this before the episode. I got a new mic. Here it is. Crispy. Is
that the Blue Yeti?
It is the Blue Yeti, baby.
Oh, yeah, I used to have one of those back in the day.
I got it on sale. Yeah, did you have it for your gaming channel?
I did. Yeah. Whoa. Don't look at
next
that up.
episode, we'll bring that up. Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. Yeah,
I had the silver one, so that must be the all black, blackout version. Yeah, no, it's really a great mic for the price.
Absolutely,
great
mic for the price. I have these little modes on here. It's crazy. So I'm in my podcast mode.
Oh, there you go. Presets and stuff.
Yeah, so hopefully it sounds good. I've been trying. I used it last week too with Connor, but yeah, I'm trying to nail it in a little bit. So yeah, it should sound a little better, and then you sound good all the time somehow. I don't know how you got your.
I'm just using my AirPods.
I guess so, man. I guess that's just how it works. But yeah, how was your week, bro?
It was good, man. It's been busy. Yeah, I've had actually today and yesterday I had back-to-back concerts. So yesterday was the Wind Symphony concert, which is band, concert band. So I had my work cut out for me there. And then tonight was an orchestra performance. So we played some tunes tonight and went out afterwards for a little bit, had a couple drinks, and
nice.
And now I'm back home and ready to get the weekend started. I'm playing on someone's actually for a conducting student here. He's a master's student.
So he's conducting
playing in his recital. Exactly, yeah. He's conducting a small chamber.
That's pretty cool.
Group of us. So I'll be doing that this weekend. But yeah, so it's been
busy.
It's been pretty big. Been pretty busy.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, it's been a good week. So all of my boss and all the people that there's 4 staff members that are in Israel right now, or they're on their way back now, but they've been there for 2 weeks.
In Israel?
Yeah. And so the office has been pretty quiet, and I've just been doing my thing pretty quietly. I got my first 5 miles in a while. I got a 5-mile run in this week. So that was pretty nice. That was pretty big for me. So I felt pretty good about that. Been running a lot more. I think tomorrow.
Do you go with Jay too, or is it just solo?
Jordan's doing, she was at work when I went on my big 5-mile run, but we've been doing smaller jogs, 2 miles together and little things. Just to get her back into it and for me to have a regular routine. So it's been kind of cool. It's been a good little do it together. We're going to I want to run a half, I think. Maybe in the summer, maybe in this, I don't know. I don't know if I should do it in the summer or it's tough in Vegas to do it in the summer.
Is hot.
It's Vegas so hot. It's even in May, if I do it, let's say late May or something, it's going to be 110, at some points.
You need a beach half marathon or something, It's nice and cool.
San Diego for the weekend, do the half there.
Exactly.
I hear you, man. Yeah. So we'll see. I'll see if I even have time for it with stuff going on right now. But yeah, man, it's been a good week. So I'm going to Six Flags on Saturday to Monday. Yeah. Yeah.
With the youth group?
Yeah, the youth group. So I scheduled this trip and we're going to go have we're going to spend one day at Six Flags and the other, so Saturday we'll go to the beach in the afternoon and then Sunday all day Six Flags and then Monday head back home. So
is it Magic Mountain?
Yeah, Magic Mountain. Yep. Six Flags Magic Mountain. So I've never been. like legitimately. The one time I went was really sad. And so it was like, I don't,
What do you mean?
I don't want to start it off bad. I guess, no, this is
Okay,
kind of,
sorry.
no,
All
no,
right.
no, this is kind of entertaining, I think. So it was my 8th grade trip. You know, how you'd have maybe an 8th grade trip. And, and so I was still new to Las Vegas, so I didn't know anybody. And so, but I still went on the trip. So I sat next to this kid. I sat next to this kid on the bus, and we were chatting. And I was trying to like get in his group for when we got off the bus and like rode rides and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we got off the bus. You like leave really early. And like I got off the bus, and then I was like, okay, guys, I got to go to the bathroom really quick, and I'll be right back. And so I run off, and I'm trying to like hang with this group, right? I get back, and they're gone. They like just kind of abandoned me and like started riding stuff without me.
There's some assholes.
Exactly. I couldn't find them. And so then I was like, fine, I'll just ride rides by myself and try to find people, you know, that I knew, kind of. And so I rode one ride. It was the Wonder Woman lasso. So it's like this like spinny. Oh, it was the worst idea I've ever had, because it's that kind of spinning. You stand up in it and it like slams you against the wall, and you're like spinning in a centrifugal craziness. I got off that, sick to my stomach. I didn't throw up, but I was pretty close. Okay. I was pretty close. And I was nauseous the rest of the day. So I didn't want to ride anything. And it was the worst. It was the worst. So this is me living vicariously through these kids. We get to go to Six Flags together. So I don't know. That's going to be pretty nice to actually ride some roller coasters.
Yeah.
So anyway, other than that, man, I got a little off topic.
What a gateway story.
Spencer's sad 8th grade year.
Hey man, I don't think anyone's going to abandon you this time. So I think you should be okay.
I mean, I got my wife with me this time, and my dad. My dad's going too. So
your dad's a chaperone?
Yeah, he's good chaperone. So it's going to be I'm gonna have my group this time. So
nice.
Anyway, so I got an actual college story for us tonight that I want to reflect on together.
No,
if you're
okay. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be coming out of left field. I have no idea what he's going to bring up. So.
Yeah, I told him I would have an entertaining story for him. Okay. I want to reflect on one of the most fun and most community oriented nights we had at our house on 5 Mile. And I'm talking the first time we all played True American. Do you remember this as a group?
Is this on my birthday?
It might have been your birthday.
Or for
your birthday, something like that.
Yeah.
When we got back.
For our birthday.
Yes, it was our joint, because we're 2 days apart. Yeah, so.
And was this during a playoff game?
I don't know if it was during a playoff game.
Bucks versus Commanders, I think.
Oh man, you
was it 2020? It was during COVID, right?
Yeah, it was right after COVID. Or sorry, right when we came back for spring.
Like January 2020.
Yeah, Jan term 2020. Yes.
Like right before spring semester.
That's what it was. It was right before COVID started, right? Or no?
I do. Yeah, technically.
Okay. Yeah. So True American is just a really fun. Actually, I don't know, man. You know what?
No, COVID had started. It was 2021.
That's exactly. You're right. Yeah. You're totally right. That was exactly it.
Yeah.
So the reason I bring this story up is I want to know. I want to know your perspective on it, because I remember this. We invited a lot of people over. Okay. So it was the closest thing that we ever had to like a party. We didn't really have parties, but we had a bunch of people over. We had food, some drinks. We had like a whole thing going on. And I remember it was one of the most I felt connected to the group of friends that we had. It was really awesome. Yeah. It was okay. I think you, me, obviously, and the 4 of us from the upstairs. Ben was there. the girls. So your girlfriend and all the girls next door came over.
Emily, Katie, and Mariah.
Yep. I think
Cynthia, Callan, Joanna.
yes. Sarah was there.
Katie, Sarah, Katie.
Yeah.
Are we missing anyone?
I don't know. I think Jordan was there too.
Jordan was there. Yes.
Yep. So it was just a great time, and I wanted to share a picture from the.
Oh God.
No. It's very tame. Okay. But while I try to find it, because I'm an idiot and didn't try to find this earlier.
No, you're good.
Do you remember that night at all? I guess my question.
I do. Yeah. I actually remember it pretty vividly because I mean, it's gonna make me sound like just a crazy Tom Brady fan again, but I specifically remember because it was the evening that the Buccaneers were playing the Washington Commanders in the wild card of the NFC playoffs, and they were going against Taylor Heineke, and Taylor Heineke was going off that game, and I was getting very angry and upset. And I remember talking to you specifically about it, and he's like, "You know, man, we should just like." You were telling me like the Bucks are gonna win this game. Like, who cares? Let's go to Total Wine.
Yeah.
Load up on some alcohol and just like turn off the game because you're being a Debbie Downer. Because I was getting like pissed off at this football game.
True.
You're like, dude, we're gonna have fun.
I do remember that.
Yes. So I remember me and you got in the Subaru and we headed over to Total Wine and we picked up all the great liquids for that evening, and I was kind of glued to my phone, like keeping track of the score. And then I think by the time we ended up getting back, the Bucks had kind of secured the victory, so I could finally relax and enjoy the rest of the.
That's good, man.
The rest of the night. So.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm remembering a little bit more. Is this the first night Mariah came over?
That I have no idea.
Because didn't we go to Total Wine and then Casey was like texting Mariah and like there was a whole thing like if she could have come over tonight and like we had this whole so we were trying to.
I don't remember. That would be something to ask him.
We were trying to be like supportive of him and like make it a fun time. And I'm not finding it. I'm really upset right now. Dang it. Man,
what was it? Was it just of all of us, or?
Okay, so it was a picture of. Oh, you know what? It's probably on my Snapchat. That's why. It was a picture of me taken by Jordan. Of me and Ben like standing there, doing our little thing. I feel like this is boring. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry, Anthony. I don't have it. All right, if I find it, I will put it up on the screen. So that'll be good. All I was trying to say with the situation was, I think personally that gathering was something I tried to recreate the rest of our college days, and it never happened. It was really sad. It was like, I don't know why. It was just such a good vibe, and everyone was getting along, And it was one of those first times that people were like. People weren't dramatic with each other. There wasn't any tension, right? And then things closer to graduation, people got like, I don't like that guy, or I don't like this girl, or whatever. Like it got a little. Which I'm not calling anybody out in our group of friends.
No, it's okay. I think. We can get into that if you would like.
I would like to, man. I thought maybe we would reminisce a little bit on that.
But before that, actually, there was a night before that too that I always wanted to recreate, which is interesting. And I don't know if you remember. So this was actually, it was at the 5 Mile House too, but it was the year previous. So prior to COVID, and I wasn't even 21 yet. And I remember it was one of our first times like drinking collectively as a house. And this was in November of 2020. So this was like before COVID. And I remember I was going to a jazz concert that Whitworth was putting on.
Yeah.
And it was just me and Callan, who's one of the gals that lived next door to us.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up going to this concert. And I remember telling, it was either you or James. I was like, when I get back from this concert, I need you guys to have 4 shots lined up for me, and I'll take them back to back to back to back.
Oh no!
And you're like, you're like, I remember like James, because he had more experience, like drinking. He was like, dude, you're insane. Like, that's dumb. Like, I was like, no, listen to me. Like, when I get back, like, you need to have this shit lined up.
Yeah.
And so
we did.
And I remember coming back, and you guys did, and you had the 4 shots lined up.
And let me qualify
when
this.
Cal and I got back,
it wasn't just like little shot glasses. It was like
was
like the bigger like sipping glasses that had kind of half full. So it was more than a shot probably.
And I remember like the whole like there was a lot of people there, like and you guys are like, well, oh my god, like I came back and like everyone was hyped because you guys were already a little buzzed. Well, I got to catch up. And so you had the 4 shots lined up, and I remember just going, boom, 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 boom. And James's face was priceless. I wish there was a picture. He was like scared for my health. But for the viewers at home, Spencer's, fantastic, wonderful wife, Jordan, actually saved my life that night.
Yes,
because as you can imagine, I was not feeling too well, a couple hours later, and I don't even know how it was just the Jordan spidey senses kicked in or whatever. And I remember her just like coming over with a trash bag and me just like, it's just like immediate, like she just knew like, yeah, this guy's about to fucking. And so I was like, it's one of the, it was one of the most funny moments, but it was also, I was super grateful for her in that moment because I think everyone else was too gone to like be, like the sort of mom in that situation. Yes. And our carpet probably would have suffered greatly if Jordan wasn't there with the trash bag to, recover my mistakes that I made that night. So shout out to Jordan for that one. But that was a great night.
Honestly, so true. It was. So I remember I wasn't awake for that. I had to be told about that later. Do you remember that part? Like
I don't. I thought you were awake.
No, I went to bed because I was just not feeling good. Like I was just, I'm gonna go to bed. No. And it was brutal. So and then Jordan told me about like this is what's I don't know how she stayed with me, bro. I like she helped me up to bed, and then I passed out in bed, and I was like, and then she went and like mom loaded a bunch of people. And like helped you out and helped other people out. And then she like went home. Like, wow, that was pretty good. Morning. Yeah. She just like did her thing. So yeah, man, so you're trying to recreate that night?
No, well, just like, but I felt like maybe it was because I was so gone that like, I felt like, everyone was getting along similar to how you were describing, the True American Night. But okay, let's fast forward back to why the True American Night was great. I think part of it is, I might get some flack for this, but I feel like True American, just in its title itself, is very,
You think it's polarizing?
It explains why it was so fun, though. I felt like, it is such like, American type of game. Let's pull up the picture if you have.
Here we go. Here it is. There's me with my pink shorts right there.
The salmon
shorts. There's Ben.
Sarah in the background.
There's Sarah in the background. There's James.
Who's next to Sarah? Is that Emily?
I think that's Emily back there. There's your lady. Yeah, right there. And someone else is back there. I don't know who it was. But you can see we're trying to stay. You have to stay on. It's like floor is lava. You gotta like stay on the pillows. And so we were running around doing stuff. And I don't know. It's just like, it was fun. I'm going to reset my camera here because it does. See, now I look great. it was just a fun time. Like I just remember like everyone was feeling good, and it was just it was innocent, right? There wasn't like any, fighting or anything like that. It was just like
Mhm.
and I don't know why I like connected with that so much, but it was
Oh
fun to
yeah.
play a game with each other, hang out for the evening. And so true American, all it is it's like there's some, you have some drinks, and you just like basically make up the rules as you go along as part of it.
Mhm.
And then you also just imbue some American patriotism in there. You get like some American trivia. You got to like do a
Mhm.
count. You do 3, 2, 1, and you got to name an American president or whatever, like, a famous American. And it's a very fun game, and it's stupid, but it's just
Really
good.
lighthearted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very lighthearted. And that's why, I don't know. I thought maybe, I don't know if you had any experiences like that with our house. I can think of a couple other times when we watched The Bachelor together once, and that was really fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we
No,
like,
I
I
mean,
don't know, we did a couple things, and so I don't know. I was always trying to recreate that sense of community.
yeah. No, and as it's interesting you bring that up because now that I'm thinking about that and as I kind of reflect on it, it does bring back sort of a bittersweet nostalgia that
Yeah,
is, it was those were really cool times, and I definitely think that while there's going to be other cool things that happen
hmm,
in the future, obviously, like those are some things that you kind of take for granted in the moment. You're like, wow, like
absolutely.
you get to just be kind of young and dumb and hang out, and
Your friends are all with you.
your friends are with you. You have little to worry about for the most part, at least, and
Yeah, just
you know
assignments.
just assignments and stuff, and just what every other college student has to deal with. So,
Yeah,
um, and I think especially too, you'll probably resonate with this a little bit. Is that I think it meant even more because we were going to classes and going to school during a time of isolation with COVID, and where like
yeah,
social interactions like that weren't as normal, and
right.
so you really had to make a big effort in order to gather with the people that you love and that you're friends with and to have good times. Like those were really special moments during that time because there
Yeah,
was a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear around you know COVID and contracting the virus and things like that. So
yeah,
I think that's what made it even more uh, special looking back at it because
yeah,
there wasn't as many of those opportunities
yeah.
um,
I'm
before COVID.
yeah. And when I'm thinking about it, I I have a hard time because it's it was it's not like this was the most amazing moment ever in my entire life, but it was just like friends hanging out, and we talked. It was the big part of it was like we had some deep talks together, and we
Mhm.
had some like real discussions about things, and we got a little deeper about what's going on with us and all that kind of stuff. And like part of me is bummed that that's not. I'm I'm feeling like I'm in a good stage in my life. Actually, I'm married, and I love Jordan. I love talking deep with her, and I we get to do life together. But it is just an interesting thing, like trying to let I don't know, trying to let 4 years of college go. You know,
Mhm.
we've
Yeah,
I've already been out of college for 2 years.
it's crazy, man. I'm
It's like
finishing up a
uh,
master's degree, so
exactly.
I yeah,
It's like it's weird to think
crazy.
about that more than 2 years ago we were having that situation with each other. And
Mhm.
as much as, you know, everyone likes to say, oh, we'll keep in touch. We'll see, we'll do all this kind of stuff. It's hard to get
Yeah,
everything in line aligned so that you can see each other or hang out. And also you're not like around each other as much. So it's not, I don't know. It's just like, it's bittersweet, like you said, because you look back and like, I'm glad where I am, right? Like, I really love where I'm at, and I love love thinking about the future ahead and this life I'm starting and all this kind of stuff. But it is also just kind of, it's nostalgic to look back at years of building friendships with people and trying to figure stuff out. My goodness, man. Like, I don't know. No one really, there was like an innocence to it that was like excused because you're in college. Right. And then like after you're out of college, it's like, hey, have you figured your shit out? You know, like, are you,
Oh, yeah.
are you on it? So I don't know. It's a different experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And I mean, I don't know. At least for me, I think it it's weird because it was definitely a very difficult point in my life. I think when those type of thing, like when we were having those kind of gatherings, get-togethers, um, those would be sort of the high moments, and then I just remember after that there being some like really deep lows too, and um, it is like I haven't really had a lot of time to think about it, but
and I agree. I should preface with what I'm saying with like, it was not all sunflowers and rainbows and like I agree, man. There's depressing moments in college, and so that's kind of why I was trying to say, like, I don't know if I would go back. Like, I'm grateful for where I'm at. Like, I don't know if I be like, oh, I wish I was in college the rest of my life. That's not what I'm saying. It's more like
we got what we needed out of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like we built those things through it, and I don't know. So anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up. I thought we'd talk a little bit about the silly shenanigans we did and all that kind of stuff. We have plenty of those stories, so we can at a later date reflect on those. But man.
Well, you said you had a couple things. So
I do. I was going to jump into something else. If first and foremost, what'd you think of the weekend, bro? What'd you think of the big game?
I know. Yeah. So, listen, for everyone at home, I happen to live in one of the cities of the teams that was playing in the big game. I was talking in our group chat that I have with Spence and Casey and James, who've been guests on this podcast before, and I made the decision to, and I apologize if any of my friends from Temple are listening. I doubt it because I haven't really told them about this, but I pulled a little white lie, and I said, "Man, I'm feeling a little sick, so I think I'm just going to stay home for the game." And that is because some of my buddies here wanted me to go out to a bar in Center City, Philadelphia, and watch the game. The only problem is that they ended up getting to the bar at noon, and the game started at 6:30 Eastern. But if you wanted a seat, if you wanted a table to watch the game, you had to get there hours in advance. And so in my head, I was thinking like, one, probably going to spend a shit ton of money.
Yep.
Two, I'm probably going to be so drunk that before kickoff, I'm not even going to be able to enjoy the game because my head's going to be spinning. And number three, I'm sure a lot of you have seen Philadelphia sports fans, man, are on a whole different level.
That's so true,
they are savage. They're ruthless. They will climb the poles. They will break and loot the store. Like they will do anything. Eagles fans they'll flip cars. Eagles fans are crazy. And so win or lose, I was a little worried about what the reaction of the general public in the city would be. And to my, great pleasure, I must say, because I am not a very big Eagles fan myself. There was just happened to be a lot of sad Eagles fans and not a
Yeah.
lot of destruction. But if it were to go the other way,
Oh yeah, dude.
I can guarantee you that the city would have been
Anarchy.
on fire.
Yeah.
Anarchy on fire. And I did not want to be caught up in the middle of that because I had already gotten a little bit of a taste of what it would be like when they won the NFC Championship game. And I did partake in the celebratory festivities. And that was mind-boggling. People flooding the streets, climbing on top of shit, going bananas. And so I can't even imagine what it would have been like if they were to actually have won the game. But yeah, I just got to watch and honestly by myself. It was a little bit sad, but like I got
sad.
over it. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I got to watch the game in peace and quiet and enjoy it for what it was. It was a great game.
It was it was a competitive game. I thought it was like, you know,
it was
some even matches. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't a terrible breakdown on either side. You know, it was like it was pretty competitive. It was down to the wire. You know,
exactly.
It was a good game.
So that was my side of it. What did you do?
Yeah,
what did you do?
So we had some of the youth kids that come to the church and we watched it all together. I got like Wingstop, you know, and we hung out and it was fine. We put it on the big screens and I just kind of hung out. I didn't really do much. I just, you know, watched the game, chatted with some people and then went home, you know? So, I'll ask you this about it. Did you have a memorable Super Bowl? I can't say that on YouTube. Did you have a memorable big game commercial? That was a big deal to you.
Well, the one that I think got everyone was the Tubi commercial.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
When it like they like pretended like, you know, the game was still going on and they had the overlay of like the you know, dashboard of Tubi or whatever, and it was like, you know, people were like, "What the fuck, Dad?" or like whatever, you know, why are you changing the channel?
Yeah.
I think that pissed off a lot of people. It definitely got me. I was like looking for my remote. Like, did I accidentally do something?
Did you see the Ram commercial? Do you remember that one?
I don't.
It was like there was all sorts of innuendo about it. It was like I don't know if I can.
I know, go for it.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to like.
We'll cut it out.
I don't know if I can remember. The commercial is like wow, you know that Ram. Oh God, it was talking about male things and using them as euphemism, using the Ram truck as euphemisms, where the word Ram was used innuendo wise very much. Like, so
I'm surprised I didn't see it.
It was like, get in there, Ram, you know, like it was like such a dumb commercial. So I remember that one. There was the weird Eminem clam one, which was stupid.
I do remember that, yeah.
And then some of the other ones were just kind of like sad. I don't know. It wasn't like the best commercial game I've ever seen. So
no. Let me ask you this: what did you think of the halftime show? You get to watch Rihanna.
Man, you know what? I talked with Jordan about this. I told her I liked last year's better with all the classic rappers.
Snoop and Dr. Dre and
Eminem and 50 Cent. Kendrick was up there. That to me was like, it was really fun to watch personally. So, because I knew all the songs, I could kind of like bob my head to it. It's like, oh, this is great, you know? Jordan brought up a good point though. She was like, yeah, but was it a Super Bowl halftime production? It's like, what do you mean? She's like, Rihanna was lifted around on like platforms, and there was some weird, marshmallow guys running around out there.
The dancers,
and they walk out like this, which they were really good dancers, by the way. But she was like, that's more of a Super Bowl production. You know, that's what you look for in like a Super Bowl thing. I was like, okay, that's a fair point. I don't know. It felt to me like Rihanna, you know, it wasn't a lot of energy from Rihanna. She was just kind of like going with it,
Right.
vibing a
That's
little
what
bit,
I
which
felt.
is fine because I think she's pregnant and she's got a lot going on, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It felt a little interesting. It was fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We're going to be a little bit unpolitically correct, but I think the general response was it was a little fucking boring. Like, like it's always nice when they bring out some guests,
Mm-hmm.
and that's nothing against Rihanna. She's obviously a great performer
Mm-hmm.
and has done a really great job, producing hits over the years. I'm not trying to take away from Rihanna. I don't think it's like it was necessarily her decision just to be out there, by herself the whole time.
Yeah.
I think one thing to give her credit for too is like the song selection was great. I think every single thing she sung, everyone knew, which was awesome. But like, it was just kind of like, you had the like Super Smash Brothers
I was
platforms going on and shit.
Did you see that on Twitter? Where
I did.
It's like, watch out, Rihanna! Here comes Bowser.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, I think other than that, like it was pretty like,
yeah,
it was kind of boring, and I wish.
That's a fair point.
I wish they would have added.
Didn't change that much.
Yeah, it was the same, and although, like I said, I think Rihanna's great. I have nothing against her, and it was just it kind of flatlined for me.
Yeah,
and I think even like that weird Bruno Mars one during COVID or 2021, where he was like looking into all the mirrors and like he's all confused, and there's memes about that. I don't know if you remember that, but yeah, I thought that was.
I do remember it, but not very well.
That was I know. There's just a lot of forgettable things I think that happened.
Yeah, the Rihanna one, unfortunately, is going to go into my. I forgot that Super Bowl, box.
Exactly.
Last year's was memorable. Last year's Super Bowl halftime show was more memorable than the actual Super Bowl to me. Where who won again? I'm trying to remember.
The Rams.
The Rams, that's right. The Rams won, and they beat the
Bengals.
The Bengals, not Bucks. Bengals. See, there you go. That's I remember that.
Remember the halftime show?
The halftime show's got So I don't know, man. It's gonna go in that box for me. Well, it's preference,
No, I get that.
Anyway, on to my next topic, if you're willing.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I got a recommendation, a book recommendation for the people out there. Okay.
For the people.
For the people.
Not by the people. Okay.
Also by the people.
Okay.
But maybe I don't know. The Russian people. So, it's backwards. Okay. This title.
Brothers Karamazov?
Yeah, that's the Brothers Karamazov. Yeah. So, and I'm halfway through it. I know the synopsis of it. Unfortunately, I don't want to, but I know it. I know the story, but I'm halfway through it, fully reading it. I wanted to rec it to people. I don't know. I just felt like it was a good story for our time because it's written in such a different context, and it's you feel like it's like, oh, I can't read this. This is Russian literature from the 1800s. What does this have to do with me, bro? Anthony, you should read it. Have you read it?
Well, funny enough, Emily actually gave it to me as a Christmas present one year.
Really?
And I have yet to read fully through it. So.
Okay. Well, maybe we can read it together. We can get through it together. Because there's this chapter, and the reason this is why I bring it up. There's this chapter, and the Brothers Karamazov is very. The story is that there's 3 brothers, and one illegitimate one. Who's the 4th one? There's 3 brothers and then an illegitimate one, and the 3 main ones, 3 legitimate ones, are sons to a really corrupt and evil man who is their father, Fyodor Karamazov, right? And the plot is, this isn't a spoiler, this is on the back of the book. The plot is that these three end up killing their father after, kind of an intense argument and accident, right? And it goes through like the whole character studies of all these people, and all these characters are like, they have their own motivations and they're really well written. They're really well fleshed out. Where you got like kind of the hothead military brother, you got the intellectual, pessimistic, nihilistic guy, and you got the like really innocent monk who's a brother, right? Like he's like a novice, and he's really religious and all this kind of stuff. And they all like talk together and discuss things, and there's a lot of drama. And so that's a little context for the book. There's this chapter where one of the brothers, Ivan, is talking to another brother, Alyosha. So Ivan's this like intellectual, humanist, kind of agnostic, atheist character, right? And I say that in the highest term because he's a really admirable character in the book. And then Alyosha, also very high term, he's the religious monk, like, he's part of the Orthodox Church there in Russia, like, and this is before like the Soviet Union and all that, which is kind of crazy too. But they have this discussion, and Ivan brings up this concept of the Grand Inquisitor. Okay, so it's a chapter in the book. The Grand Inquisitor might be one of the best things I've ever read. Okay, and it sums up a lot of interesting things about, faith things, religious things, and then also like just philosophical thoughts. So, and how human beings are. The plot, he tells Alyosha a story about. Is this boring at all? Are you interested in this? Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So he tells Alyosha this story, who's a religious man, by the way, very, very, he's like an acolyte. Okay. Mm-hmm. He tells the story of the Western Church, the Catholics, okay, in Spain. So they're in Spain, and there's this, it's during the Inquisition, where the Spanish Inquisition, where the Catholic Church is rooting out heretical belief, burning people at the stake, yada, yada, yada. Okay.
Yep.
Ivan brings up a hypothetical. He basically says this. He says, like, basically, once upon a time, they were doing their thing, and this man arrives to the land, okay, and he starts doing miracles, and he starts raising people from the dead, and he starts doing things like Christ does, okay, in the biblical stories. He's very like kind, loving, and he like speaks the truth. He heals people, this kind of stuff, okay? And he also forgives people of sins, all this stuff, right? This is very biblical themed thing, kind of an analogy to Christ. And the Inquisitor in town, of the Grand Inquisitor, like in charge of the Inquisition, this is Ivan's story, remember? The Inquisitor sees this character who doesn't talk the entire chapter. He doesn't speak a single word. He sees this character, renounces him as heretical, arrests him, okay, and then interrogates him, right? So he walks into this cell, and it's this like it's a beautifully written like monologue from this Inquisitor, who is basically trying to justify why this person, who he recognizes as literally Christ, so in this story, he is like, if Jesus showed up in Spain instead of Israel, like that's the hypothetical, right? So in this story, he is literally like the savior of the world in that realm. And so he knows this, and then he justifies his behavior saying, you are giving the people too much freedom. And he basically denounces him and says, they can't have that because we have to have the spiritual truths that are handed down, right? Like we have to be on the top. Hence, we're going to burn you at the stake. And so it's this critique of religious hierarchy, tyranny, right? Where, and at the end of the story, I won't spoil it, but it's not what you think happens. But the story ends, and Ivan basically just wraps it up saying, like, this is why I'm not part of churches or whatever, like traditional organized religion. It's because of behavior like that, where they co-opt what they say they believe in and they're disguising it really as a power trip, right? And again,
it's a problem still.
So that's why I brought it up. I was like, this is absolutely still something people struggle with today. Like there's all sorts of debate about, and I know I'm getting to faith stuff again, but I feel like I just thought I would bring it up. It's so relevant to just like the human condition, not just, I think it's a timeless piece of, yeah, exactly. It's like, I think it's a timeless piece for how human beings take a good idea and turn it into something for their own gain, like all the time. And they actually, when they get to that point, they don't even recognize the good idea anymore, you know, and they say it's heretical and then they burn it at the stake. That's kind of the idea of the story. So yeah, anyway, Rose Karamazov, it's like such a great read. And I highly recommend it. So there you go. That's all I got for that part.
It's a good one. It's a good one. No, so it'll that book will definitely make you smarter.
Yeah, it makes you think deeply and
push outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It does. And some people don't like it. Some people don't like the way he writes on any side of the spectrum of belief. And so I think it's a good thing to challenge your worldview. So
100%.
Yeah, man. I guess the question I have for you is, are there any books you've read or are in the, or maybe not even, let's not even say like books, just some piece of literature or art or music that you've consumed recently that was interesting to you and that you would recommend for people? And I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah.
It's okay if you can just say what's on your mind. You know, if you don't have anything.
No, that's good. Man, there's a lot of great stuff. Man, because I can go in like every different avenue, like literally the fine arts, the musical arts, and literature.
You should.
Where do I want to go?
You can do all of those.
And I'd say for literature, another really interesting recent thing that I would encourage people to maybe investigate and look into. And I feel really bad because I can't remember the author, but it's this thing called The Coronation. And it was I should send it to you. Sure. I think you would really be fascinated by it.
Yeah.
But it's this sort of a series, but piece of I guess you could call it literature that this guy wrote during the COVID times, and it talks about fear and it talks about anxiety and how society's response to the COVID-19 pandemic reflects a greater problem in, you know, the human experience and like the different flaws in that. And I think it's fascinating.
Is it by,
you know, if you're willing,
Charles Eisenstein?
Eisenstein, yeah.
Okay.
Did I talk to you about this before?
No, you haven't. I just pulled it up and looked it up.
Charles Eisenstein, The Coronation.
Gotcha.
Man, it, you know, I think there might be like some pushback on it because it's maybe it's a little bit against what the main narrative was surrounding COVID. But I mean, I don't know Eisenstein personally, obviously, but just based off of reading what he wrote, I don't think he's like, some sort of anti-vaxxer or like anti this or anti that. I think he's just a human.
Yeah.
And his observations and his just the sort of reflections and critical thinking that he has and had during the pandemic, because he wrote this during the pandemic, I think is it's really fascinating to read. And I don't want to spoil too much, so
yeah,
but definitely it's like, because we're a little bit removed from that time too.
Yeah,
but it is still really close. It's I think a lot of it will resonate with everyone. So Charles Eisenstein, the coronation. It also, full disclosure, the only reason I heard about it is because actually on the Pat McAfee show.
Oh, really?
Which is kind of a goofy sports podcast for those funny who don't know. Aaron Rodgers has a book club on there where he comes on every Tuesday or often. And obviously Aaron Rodgers is kind of a polarizing figure in the sports world, but also because of some of his decisions. But anyways, he brought this up on the show a couple months back. And, surprisingly, I looked into it, not really expecting much. And I was like, wow, like there's some really, really great stuff written there.
Yeah.
About that. So anyways, that was a long-winded rant for the
that's great,
for the literature side. For the, because like the fine arts or the more like paintings and that. I actually took this class at Whitworth my last semester, and it was about like 20th century American art. And I would just recommend, there's a lot of artists, but there's, especially in the 20th century, or 20th century, early 20th century in America, where there's sort of this industrial revolution and like machinery and factories started to become very prevalent in the United States. And it's sort of this like driving force that propelled the country, obviously kind of before the Great Depression hit and stuff. So kind of right before that, how everything was like industrialized, and there was sort of this fascination with machinery and factories and that sort of technology. There's just a lot of great artwork that reflects that sort of American obsession with, that industrialism. And I think even to a degree now, like with AI, with things like ChatGPT, with even like NFTs, with crypto, the tech boom, that's like kind of what our society is obsessed with, that, we're living in. Yeah. But I think that, back then it just happened to be with machines and factories and that sort of thing, because that was like the new thing. And now, like, we kind of see how that old cliche saying of how history always just ends up repeating itself. I think, and in a way it's still true now. Like we've kind of moved on to this obsession around, technology and artificial intelligence and, Chinese spy balloons, stuff like that. It's a different sort of age we're into. So that's what I would say there. If you haven't, go look back at some of those. There's plenty of artists and paintings that I think reflect that sentiment.
Absolutely.
As far as music, for anyone that kind of knows me, I'll probably be like, of course he's going to say this. But really, if you listen to Mahler's Ninth Symphony, it it's one of the great ones, I think, in the repertoire. And Gustav Mahler was sort of a philosopher himself in a way, but he's also just a normal human being like the rest of us, and struggled with the same sort of things. And he just happened to be really good at putting that into musical notes and that sort of thing. And his Ninth Symphony happens to be kind of recognized. It's a little controversial, but I think a lot of people would agree that it's a sort of a farewell to life itself. And so it's a 4-movement symphony, and each movement is a farewell to a certain facet of life. So there's a farewell to nature and sort of the earthly pleasures that we experience. There's a farewell to the more urban, industrialized world that we live in, the farewell to the, things that we enjoy and benefit from, the modern, world that we live in. And then there's a farewell to love, there's a farewell to, just the human experience. And it's very, it's a little like, cheesy, I guess, in some ways, but it's also not cheesy, because a lot of it just kind of goes over your head, and you obviously can't fully get into the mind of what he's thinking, but there's just some things about it that as you're listening, you might be like, wow, that's really sentimental, or that makes me feel a certain type of way. I don't know why. And I think, yeah. So anyways, that's a very long-winded rant. No, but your question sparked that response.
That's what I was going for. Yeah. I got a follow-up question if you're up for it. We're almost at time, but we got time. Okay. You are in the world of classical music. Okay. You are, you know, it's history, at least to a degree. You know, it's contemporary nature right now. My question to you is this: is classical music, with its symphonies and its, composers and conductors and that manner of music, I'm aware that it's found a place in film and in like video games and like I know it's found that part of it, like movie scores and all that, and that's really cool. Do you think, and this is not, I hope this isn't offensive, but do you think it's around here to stay? Like, do you think it's going to evolve into because there's movements of, Western classical music from hundreds of years of development of this kind of music. I mean, you can go Baroque, and then you go all the way to, 1800s. You got like just a crazy span of music.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that it's interesting because while I think it becomes more obscure as time goes on to certain individuals and groups of people, I think there's always going to be those like niche groups, no matter what generation, who are just nerds and who are addicted to like, wow, like I really like Beethoven, or I really like Mozart. But I think one thing that I will say that, and you kind of got at it, that makes classical music so timeless is that, I mean, everyone knows the opening of Beethoven's Fifth, right? Da, 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 da. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to, you don't have to like classical music or know like you don't have to fucking know a thing about it to know like, oh, that's Beethoven. Or even not even that it's Beethoven, but like, hey, that's that one like famous classical thing. And I think that's what makes it sort of transcend time. Now, that being said too, like, the amount of people that want to study it, the amount of people that want to invest in it, I think that is a struggle that we have in our industry, because it is, it sort of has this sort of like high society or elevated sort of persona that I think kind of turns a lot of people off, and maybe the younger generation too, where, it seems a little bit too like fancy or too posh for
Mm.
things. And I can understand that. But I think back in the day that, what people have to realize is that that was like what you would listen to. Like that's what people would go do for fun, is like go to these concerts and instead of going and listening to Drake or listening to Morgan Wallen or listening to Katy Perry or Rihanna, like you'd go and listen to a classical music concert. And so it wasn't, while it did like, there's no doubt that classical music and the concerts and stuff, it definitely has a tie to the sort of aristocracy and the higher elevated society and stuff. I think that will never go away, but I think a lot of the musicians and the composers resonated more with the general public than what people tend to give it credit for. But yeah, so to answer your question, like I really don't know, like how. I think there are things like Beethoven and Mozart that will always transcend time. Like no matter what, kids are always going to
classic. Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, I think the sort of modern classical composer in the 21st century, I think they do struggle a little bit more because they're sort of competing in a industry where classical music and instrumental music in general is just not what is sought after as much. People are much more into the urban lyricism, rap, hip hop, pop music, even folk or indie or country, and that is sort of is what is sought after now. And you can see how I think some composers try to combine elements of those sort of things into more classical oriented pieces of music and stuff, but it's hard to get that to resonate. I think with the general public because people like simplicity and they like things that are catchy. And when you're a composer and you're trying to write things for obscure percussion instruments and weird instrumentations, that's not going to be as like me myself, like I'm not going to sit there and be like, yeah, I want to go listen to this new piece by so and so and try and like analyze what's going on here. It's like no, like sometimes like a Drake song comes on and I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Like I would much rather prefer to listen to that than some random notes that don't make any sense unless you're like looking at a score of music. So that's a long-winded answer. But
yeah, I think I hear what you're saying. It's much easier to get into popular music. I mean, it's designed to like catch you that way. That's why it's catchy. It's like it's supposed to be like, oh yeah, that's in my head now, and now I'm gonna be singing it the rest of the week. I think, in my opinion, I think classical music, let's say even like elevated music, you could go with piano soloists. Like,
well, you're talking about like back in the day, right?
Yes, I am. I guess I was just trying to figure out the adaptation that's happening in that world right now, and where they're trying to move on to. Because for instance, I played this game. You probably have played it. It's Skyrim. Okay. It came out in 2011. Okay. I have saved the music playlist to my Spotify account. And like it's in this playlist of like study, right? Because the music is so beautiful. Okay. It's like, it's so like, it's inspiring kind of music, which is funny to say about a video game, but it's like, the composer like did a really great job of like getting in my head. Like I can, it can start playing and be like, oh, that's that song from, this is how I remember it from when I was playing the game, blah, blah, blah. Right. Like there's moments where this classical version of music is absolutely, within my, in my mind. Another, a pianist that comes to mind George Winston. He's a great piano player. He's a great piano player. And he's, he plays kind of like just relaxing melodies, right? So I think there's a place for it. There's I've heard people say niche. Is it niche or niche? I don't know.
Niche. I don't know.
Who gives a crap, right? But
niche, I think of Nietzsche.
Yeah. Classical pieces have found a place for more, let's say, reflective or contemplative, or makes you think a little bit more kind of music.
Sure.
And I think people use it for study. I think people will relax and listen to it. So I don't think it's on its way out, right? Like, I think there's plenty of utilization for it, but I hear what you're saying.
It's just not in the sense that what it used to be. But I mean, it is funny you bring that up, because I can't remember if I brought this up on a podcast, but a few weeks ago, it might have been more like a month ago, but LeBron James came out with this quote saying how he listens to like Beethoven or Bach or something too, like before games to relax him, like exactly like you're saying. I think, the late great Kobe Bryant, who unfortunately passed away a couple years ago, he had this interview where he talked about how he was like obsessed with the Beethoven Moonlight Sonata, and he actually learned it on piano. And I think it was very touching. Like that's at awesome. his funeral service, there's someone who played, I think some type of version of the Moonlight Sonata. It is, I think it is very fitting for that. But yeah, there is, I think there's always something about it that is so special that people recognize its greatness. It's like, I think a good way to compare it is like, for example, for us, we're way too young to understand like how great a Michael Jordan was, even, or even not even Michael Jordan, because like he's still kind of connected to our parents. Let's say a Bill Russell or a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, where it's like we hear about how great they are, but like you and I, like we didn't grow up with that. We grew up with LeBron, like Kevin Durant, like
Steph.
It's Steph Curry, exactly, like Chris Paul, like Kyrie Irving, whatever. But, although we can recognize it's great, like we'll never know like exactly what it was like, but we can still respect the name. And like we hear it so often, like, oh, Kareem the Dream, and like Bill Russell and Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and those type, like, so I think in some ways, like those legendary classical composers, like just like the great philosophers like Plato and Aristotle, or whatever, like people are always going to learn about them. People are always going to know who they are. And there's always going to be nerds who like obsess about, their more obscure works and like know every little thing about it, and like end up going to school and studying it. But, I don't know. One thing, I know we're kind of going over time, but I want to get your opinion on this too, real quick. Is that one of the most popular forms of music right now is sort of like hip hop and rap. And a lot of kind of the boomer age people, I think, have a hard time accepting that as music per se. And me, like studying music, I have a very kind of interesting perspective on that. And it's, I think it is music, and it is obviously a very different form of expression, and it's not maybe as melodic or as how do I say, like it's not as there isn't as much variety in the sound or in the rhythmic patterns. But I think the reason why people are so obsessed with hip hop and rap is because it really resonates with some sort of part of our modern human experience. And a lot of rappers, although some of them say maybe what we would consider to be outrageous things, I think that it sort of resonates with our rebellious side in a way, in the same way that, believe it or not, classical music composers like a lot of them, like when they wrote their sort of like bangers or hits, it really pissed off the general public
Yeah.
of the time. And it wasn't until later that it became respected, because what they were doing was breaking the rules and breaking the status quo of what was set before them. Because otherwise, it just wouldn't be interesting at all if everyone just followed the same, pattern that was set before them. And so I think
Yeah.
it's hard to analyze it in the moment, because there's always going to be pushback about, you know, whatever new shit is coming out. And sometimes it takes years and years to be able to recognize the significance and the value in what people are producing. And I think rap is a very easy one that people target, maybe rightfully so. There's, justifiable criticism against it, because a lot of it has to deal with, violence and drug use and objectifying women and whatnot. But surprisingly, believe it or not, these are themes that have never, or I shouldn't say never. These are themes that have always been a part of the human experience and society. And believe it or not, even in classical music, a lot of operas deal with infidelity. They deal with sex. They deal with all these things. They deal with drugs. I mean, for crying out loud, Hector Berlioz, one of the famous classical composers, one of his most famous works, Symphony Fantastique, he wrote when he was high on opium. And although we view that as a very aristocratic and like, oh my God, it's Berlioz Symphony Fantastique. It's like, no, dude, that guy was high out of his fucking ass. Like, excuse my way, but he was
No, I get you, dude.
it's no different than Snoop Dogg, smoking weed and rhyming some rhymes. So I think people I think get a little bit too critical sometimes of how artists want to express themselves. And I'm not saying you have to like rap, but it's just one of those ones that sells really well, that the sort of boomer population pushes back on, because it sort of reflects these rebellious attributes of youth in our society.
Yeah.
So, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. No,
I just ranting.
No, that was awesome, man. One of my favorite rappers is Kendrick Lamar. And the reason I really love Kendrick is his lyrics are, I mean, it's straight poetry, right? And it's, it comes off like hard, and he's like, he's got a lot of tough things to say. But it's, I mean, the way they work together, the way he speaks them and raps them, and the themes he deals with, and like the crazy situations he's been in and all this stuff, right? Like, that to me is exactly what you want in a time like right now. Okay? Like, you need people who are going to say what people are feeling and thinking. That's just a fact. Like, he talks about, it's almost like he's bringing out a voice for a bunch of other people by expressing himself. He's like a truth teller storyteller to people. And I'll say this, a lot of people who don't like rap today, like my grandparents would despise. I've never played them a rap song, right? Because I know what they're going to say. What is this junk? Okay. They were the people who fell in love with Elvis. And if you have seen that new Elvis documentary out, man was like, he was like a wild man, and he was, causing a whole bunch of uproar for like these young, especially young women, who were like tired of being told what they are and what to do and all this kind of stuff. And so it's funny, like people, like I'm probably going to look back, 50 years from now and be like, it's unfortunate, because I'm going to be like, I'm probably going to not like the music of that time. I want to.
Oh, that's what we have to change though. You got to be like the progressive boomer.
Well, what I'm trying to say is like, I want to be that, but I feel like a lot of people want to be that, and then they end up not, because they're so appreciative of what they grew up with. And so it's a weird balance. I don't know, man. I want to say that I'm going to do my best to appreciate some of the music and stuff like and art and all that. It comes out when I'm 60, right? And there are people who do that, by the way. I think there's a small amount of, not even a small amount, but a good amount of people who don't say anything, but they're like, yeah, that's good music, or I'm glad they have that platform, whatever. So I think it's important to always have kind of boundary breaking things. That's just 100%. A fact, man. So
yeah.
Anyway, we're at hour 15. That's a good time. That's a good amount of time. So yeah, man. Okay, this was a good episode. We got into it today.
We did.
Cool. If you're still sticking around at the end here, drop us a like, hit the subscribe button, share it
notification
bell, share it with a friend. We're trying to get some people to get in here and discuss things with us. One thing I want to do personally is I want to get some call-ins, some voice recordings, and we can react to them when people give us something to say. So
100%.
That would be kind of interesting in the future. So send them to your friends and all that. But with that, I think we'll get out of here.
All right.
Peace.
Good everyone.